Hi again. Second video of today. Maybe I'll do three videos today. I don't know. But let's go for. All right. So I was having a conversation with my cousin yesterday. Yesterday, 2 days ago, and I took a note because I was. She was. Okay. So let's talk about brilliance and and just like the different statuses in reality in society. Sorry. Before anything, let me just like read the voice note for you. The way you are complaining is unfair to what you are saying. How truth comes out when doubt is expressed. That truth? Truth or that truth? The way it's always like I'm always fascinated by the way I write down these basically the grammar that I use when it comes to these notes. Because if I try to edit what I'm trying to say, it kills the whole thought process in my head. So the goal is for me to be able to articulate better through explaining them so that later on I take better notes, basically. So the way you are complaining is unfair to what you are saying and how truth comes out when doubt is expressed. My cousin was basically born in Lebanon, and we come from a small village close to Beirut, close to the bigger mountains, not really like in the middle of nowhere. We have a decent view of the sea, but like no, all of Lebanon kind of has a view of the sea because like we're one mountain range and then the sea is directly there. But we're like 45 minutes away from the city. All right, and she is basically one of those like tiny symbolic human beings that are always kind of like smiling and happy and perky, but like full of all kinds of insecurities. Again, parenting, love, life, all kinds of things kind of affect. But this little chick from, and I chick as in like the chicken chick, from a small remote village in like Lebanon, now works at Moody's London. And she is basically part of the analyst team. She's becoming a senior analyst and at the age of like 33 or 32, super brilliant. She's a senior analyst. She's becoming a senior analyst, sorry, of I think 6 countries in Africa for their financial system. So if you're looking at the financial world, there is a certain kind of like hierarchy in what you do, and starts with like tellers at the bank, which are like basically low tier financiers, to like the many people that are in charge of like I don't know, like different funds and shit like this. But ultimately, you have the regulatory authority. It's like an agency that kind of like writes the reports where all those people, the authorities, the big mutual funds in New York, all of them kind of like use these reports and require those expertise in order for them to be able to like grow and promote themselves. And from the small fucking village, she made it all the way to Moody's. Yet anytime I talk to her, the exact same things kind of come out. And when I was explaining it to her, was when I was talking to her and she was telling me, she was just talking, we were talking about things that she wanted to do, things that she wanted to experience but haven't. Things, I don't know, random things, right? Like she's still young, but like just instead of focusing on work all the time, she wants to kind of like leave the house and like do a pottery class or paint, all kinds of cute things. And so the way you are complaining is unfair to what you're saying. And the really reason I actually thought of it is because when we're complaining, we're not really saying what we're complaining about. Whatever we're complaining is just something for us to express something else. And so when I said that, I instantly looked at her and I was like, you do understand that everything you're telling me is not really what you're saying. And then she stopped and she looked at me and she goes like, what do you mean? And at that point, I looked at her and I was like, whatever you're complaining about is always pointing at something that you yourself would have liked to be different. And thus, the complaining part is actually saying a lot of truth simply because you can't actually say the truth like it is. So you're basically complaining in a way so that the truth still comes out. And then I started thinking about it naturally after we were done because like I looked at her and but her response was, I wish you could actually see me for who I am. And I wish I can see the way you see me. And I smiled and I was like, I can't see shit, man. All I am literally responding to is what you're telling me. And what you're getting is the raw response to what you are saying. Because even though you're complaining, what you're saying is completely basically masked by the complaint. And I just have a tendency to notice these things. So I'm responding. So I'm not seeing anything. You're telling me. And then she kind of like got like all perky eyed and like kind of felt like one of those like, I want to feel good, but also suddenly anxiety kicks in because like if what he's saying is the truth, then you know yourself, don't we? Though, isn't that the case most of the time? Like we actually know ourselves, but for some fucking reason we don't allow it to kind of like be expressed the way that makes us look that way. We always express it in a way that allows us to look more like the people around us. Like if somebody's happy when everyone's sad, everyone would look at him and be pissed off, be upset, and then he would feel unconsciously inadequate or some kind of like feeling. And then suddenly, even though he was in a happy mood, he just goes into like a negative mood and he starts feeling bad. So ultimately, for some reason, we're unfair. The way we're complaining is unfair to what we're saying because in anything we do, we're always expressing the true self. With everything we say, we're always expressing the true self. With everything we move, we're always expressing the true self. And the words really don't, they only matter if you listen to what people are complaining about and to how they're complaining about it. Because it's funny, even though you might actually be feeling the need or the urge to complain, the mind is still the mind is still the connection between you and the body. And so whatever you want to say has to come out of the mind. And if it's not a solid truth and it doesn't resonate with you, it will come out in the best way that it resonates with what you are, even though that's not fair for you to say it the way you did. To recap, at the very least, so I can actually point it down because my head right now is kind of like looking at something a bit too profound. We always know who we are. When we complain, it is unfair to who we are, especially because the complaining is telling everyone who we are in the worst way possible. Whilst the reality is, instead of actually, and again, like complaining about anything, it doesn't fucking matter. It could just be hesitation in the form of like, no, but I, but ooh, but e, all of these kinds of like interactions that are not really authentic to your own self are always still expressing yourself. They're expressing who you are. And the problem is, you're not actually putting in the effort to let it be expressed the way it actually is. You're allowing it to be expressed through a different way. And if I were to use some metaphor or something, just so that I don't kind of like get you stuck in your head, what would it be? What would it be? What would a metaphor for something like this be? Shit, I have to think about it. Uh-huh. This is a not worth certain. But how the truth comes out, man, whenever doubt is expressed, anytime you're doubting something, that's where you're at the most, that's where you're the most truthful. That's where when you're the most honest. That's when everything about you is actually revealed, raw, completely like exempt of any form of you actually sitting there and holding yourself back. Doubt is pure, doubt is raw. And normally, whatever it is you're doubting is reflected by your actions towards who you are. And that's when doubt kind of like looks at you and goes like, here I am. Open your eyes, bro. Whatever you're doubting is literally what you're causing onto yourself. But even with that, you're always expressing who you truly are. And it's funny because now I'm getting to see how like there are different kinds of ways that the mind is always on our side, or at the very least showing us what our side is, exposing ourself to us through the outside world, hoping one day we actually like resonate properly with that and we get to harmonize the body and the actual, I say the body because of the voice, right? The voice is a part of the body, the mind, and the actual self slash soul slash spirit slash consciousness, anything you want. Interesting. I'm gonna miss her, man. She's coming back in about 6 months. Yalla, babies. What was a video?